This episode was co-produced with Innovaud, the innovation and investment promotion agency for the canton of Vaud. Check out www.innovaud.ch/en to learn more.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Sylvain.
Traditional R&D can take years and cost millions. But what if you could cut that by 10 or even 100x? In this episode, we're joined by Loïc, Roch, co-founder and CTO of Ateneri, a Swiss deep tech startup building self-driving labs that combine AI, robotics, and data to fundamentally change how scientific discovery happens. And we're also joined by François Capel, innovation advisor at Innovaud, who is pushing a new category called BioTools, positioning Switzerland and especially the canton du Vaud as a hub for companies building tools for research, not just end products. Together, we unpack why the next wave of AI is not just software but physical, and how that is already reshaping industries like chemistry and pharma. We also explore how BioTool startups can move faster by avoiding regulation, but face entirely different challenges in sales, pricing, and fundraising. And finally, why ecosystem design, not just individual startup, will determine whether Switzerland captures value or continues exporting it. If you're in the R&D or BioTool space, this episode is a must listen for you. François, Loïc, very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you as guests today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Sylvain. Thanks for this opportunity to be here.
Our pleasure. So traditional R&D can take years and cost millions, yet Atinari's self-driving labs are cutting that time and cost by 10 to 100x, which is crazy to me. At the same time, Innovaud is also creating a brand new category right here in Vaud called BioTools. So we're going to talk about both of these topics. So we're joined today by Loïc Roch, co-founder and CTO at Atinary, a deep tech AI company that is basically building no-code self-driving labs from Lausanne and Silicon Valley. And we're also joined by François Capel, innovation advisor at Innovaud, the innovation agency that is turning Vaud into Europe's BioTool hub. Amazing. We start with you, Loïc, right away.
Great.
For a complete non-technical listener, what is a self-driving lab and how does Atinary actually make it possible? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I'll just follow up on what you just mentioned in the introduction. So today research costs a lot and it's very slow. And I think we can say that today research has reached some sort of a plateau. And it's not because, we lack innovation or brain power. It's just because the tools and the processes we're using are outdated and the challenges that we're trying to solve become more and more complex. And if you think about the way it's done today, typically you have a scientist, so that's a human, that is thinking about the recipe they should try. And then once this is done, then they will go in the lab, they will mix the ingredients, then they will wait for the analysis, and then they will analyze this and then decide what to do next. Typically, this process is extremely long, it's tedious. And self-driving labs tends to automate this whole pipeline. Okay, so from generating the recipe, from executing, analyzing, and then deciding on the next experiment. And the self-driving lab, to do that, it integrates robotics, artificial intelligence to augment the human scientist. And this is how we can really speed up the discovery by up to 100 or even 1,000x. And why so? It's because those type of systems can really learn constantly, right? They can see the latest data, they can see the latest results, they can optimize trade of this, they make decision on the spot. And then how we make that possible, so we have two different streams. So the first one is we build a software platform. It's an agentic AI platform. So it's we'll deliver it as a SaaS, software as a service. So our users can just get a license and then they have access to our tools, all the different agents and the different AI algorithms that can fit in their workflow. And the other stream is that now we have built our own self-driving lab in Boston. So it's a system that is fully robotized and it runs chemical reaction fully autonomously.
Crazy.
And then we collect tons of data.
Yeah.
And this data is then used to feed our model such that the model gets better and then we produce better data together with our clients or in our lab.
That's insane to me because what you described, people might know from software development, for example, but you bring that into the physical world with the labs. That's just mind-boggling to me.
Exactly. That's what we call also physical AI.
Makes sense. And François, we heard in the introduction BioTool. So you're launching a new initiative focused on BioTool. How do you define BioTool? Can you give us some examples?
Sure, you heard just Loïc what he said. Basically, he sits in the BioTool definition as we proposed. So basically, if I want to really go into detail and define it, BioTool it lays first in the life science industry. It's a segment of this life science industry, and what it does is delivers tools for research. Basically, what it means is basically you don't need to go through tedious clinical trials as medtech or biotech would do, and therefore your clients are different, and it has consequence in choosing this type of business model. The first thing is that it's non-regulated. So as you don't need to be regulated, the whole business model is different. Your clients are different. The investor you will look for are different. The whole story is different. We knew that this type of segment was existing already because they had already a name, like you can hear tech bio, tools for life science and whatnot. We decided to really have an umbrella to cover all of those existing scattered community, if you will, under one umbrella and characterize them. Therefore, from now on, we hope giving them an identity and be able to really point them or streamline them within an ecosystem. To come back to your question in terms of examples, so obviously Atinary is one example, but you have other examples like, for instance, Nanolive, if you know them. Basically what they delivered is a microscope that can observe the living cells without any markers. You may have heard also about isomorphic labs. Isomorphic labs belongs to Alphabet, so Google, if you will. And basically they design a new way to really be able to streamline the drug discovery through AI. So that are some examples, but basically the key word again, it's tools delivered for the research, not for the patient, and as such, they don't need to be regulated.
And it makes so much sense because these BioTool companies have very different needs than a traditional biotech or medtech company.
Exactly.
So hence your focus.
Exactly.
It all makes sense now. Loïc, in that sense, I also assume that what François just described, you probably also are going to market way faster than a traditional biotech company. You probably need maybe less investor money or different investor money. Is that a fair assessment that you probably hit the market faster and build faster traction than a traditional biotech company?
Yeah, so it's for sure. So yeah, you touched on a lot of different topics here. So from the investment perspective, for sure. I mean, we're not a CapEx play, right? So we build software. So in the end, it's mostly OpEx. That was true until we started to build our lab. But initially, yeah, by building software, then you can build technology faster than very like a traditional biotech company. Also, the result comes much faster. But so you would assume that with all of this, it would allow to build the traction very quickly. But in the end, there is something that you face very, very early on, is that since we are changing the way research is done, it's not just a software upgrade or, like a new tool that you bring in. It's really a new paradigm shift in R&D. And that is hitting the change management. And that's where it slows everything down.
I imagine. You mentioned before the lab in Boston. Tell us a bit more. Where do you stand today with Ateneri? What is sort of the current status and the immediate next future that you're tackling and working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this year, we had two major events. The first one was in Boston, in Seaport. So this is where we have a lab that just opened. This lab has two different systems in there, but the idea is that we can run several hundreds of experiments a day. The goal is to hit even potentially up to 1,000 experiments per day, which is crazy number. And that has two purposes. So the first one is to build very large data set for us, but also to train our model, so AI model for our clients, so that we can help them to go even faster on the R&D side and discover new molecule much quicker. And on the other side, by generating this type of molecules, then you can think of finding new type of chemistries, new molecules. And this is also something that is extremely important for us, is to go after discoveries. So that was one of the event. And the other one is now we just launched our latest version of the platform that is fully agentic. And what does that mean? It means that for scientists now in the lab, instead of having to go through literature search, identifying what is the state of the art in R&D in different fields, all of this is done by just pushing buttons. So now the client can just go on the platform, they log in, and then they can type in plain English what they want to do. Automatically, we have agent that will go screen the literature, find the relevant paper. They can import the papers. Then we help them define what is this search space. So basically, the set of parameters that they need to tweak, what are the measurements that typically they should be doing. So we help them with that. We import the data, train the model, and then they click start, and it just goes.
I see.
So we can really streamline the entire process. And we've been working with, for example, Takeda Pharmaceutical, where those are processes typically that take them up to 1 to 2 months to do. And that was reduced to a week.
That's insane. Wow. Just to comprehend that's a massive gain.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it is a real game changer. I'm sure there were also challenges along the way, or still are, obviously, like with every company. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced actually delivering a BioTool?
Yeah, so what I just mentioned it earlier, and that's the biggest one, is change management. Because when you come to, a client that have been working in a specific way for the past decades, it's very hard to change how things are done. Processes are very deep and integrated into their R&D process. And very, very, very often we could see, like the scientists as the artists in the chemistry lab, for example, or in a scientific lab, where they think of how they should run experiments, how they can think of new, we call them experimental conditions, so how they should plan those experiments. So you can perceive them as like the artist of science. And it's very hard to then, shift and think of what this new job should be once you use this type of tools. But we wanted to still have the human really deeply integrated into the loop. So we have developed specific tools where the scientists can actually chat with the entire platform, and they can provide all this gut feeling, all this experience, and share it with the algorithm. It's very important. So the goal is really not to replace, but it's to give a tool. It's a tool, so that they can really increase the pace at which they discover and optimize new processes.
It's like a leverage, so you will get more done with less time, basically.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about it, it's similar to a computer, right? When people introduced the computer, a lot of people were thinking, oh, no, now I'm going to be replaced by this box that will do my work. But in the end, it's a tool. It's something that helps you increase productivity. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
There's always this dream of working less with new technology, but usually the opposite happens. You work more.
Exactly. And now we see it even more, right? With all these LLMs that are coming everywhere that we use to help us write emails, respond to a thread or any of that, create very quickly images, prototypes. It's the same thing we're looking at. It's a tool.
Exactly.
We're learning on how to use new tools.
And François, now with your focus on BioTool companies, do you see the similar changes that they face of having to educate or to do the proper change management with their clients, or do you also see other challenges coming up?
Yeah, there are obviously a lot of challenges to being a BioTool. It's also an opportunity. It's like, I recall Limula saying, it's like selling shovels for the gold rush. Because you're not really facing the patient. You're really providing the tool in itself. But yeah, there are other challenges. I mean, for instance, since you're not targeting the patient, when you target the patient, it's kind of, it's the ladder. You have to go through the clinical trial. The stakeholders are well identified. Here, it's much more blurry, right? So the value chain is difficult to decipher, to really understand who is the decision maker in those research organisms like biopharma or academia and so on, who holds the money and who is the decision maker to buy this type of tool. So other thing is also reaching out to the right investor. So if you're life science, mostly where you will see is the two boxes, either medtech or biotech, but actually BioTool is a third box.
Yeah.
So investor really understand the market opportunity by calculating the number of patients you could be serving and so on. So the market opportunity is calculated like that, but not for BioTool because it's really for research. It's another world. So also the client premises is difficult. And when you have seen one client, well, you have seen one client. So it's really understanding how can I offer to most of my clients my solution. And then I would say is really case by case. Loïc has, as I'm sure, different issues and different opportunities because he's offering something very specific. But also I imagine the pricing could be difficult to calculate to really understand, okay, what type of pricing should I apply to my solution? Yeah. So a lot of different challenges within the BioTool.
I would like to follow up on the investor part with you, Loïc, because I imagine if you look at the traditional sort of biotech investor, they say, oh, you're not a good fit for us because you are more of a software company. But then you go to software company investors and they say, well, at the first look, maybe they say, you're too close to biotech. I don't want to invest. How do you overcome this sort of positioning challenge of sitting between the two to a certain degree?
Yeah, so on the investment side, I mean, of course, we present ourselves, or initially we presented ourselves as, software companies that are developing AI algorithm. So really pitching on the AI side to accelerate R&D. This has massive opportunities in terms of the market share that we can potentially target. We started with the pharma industry, but this goes across different industries, because in the end, chemistry is everywhere. And now that we have access to data through our lab, then we present also ourselves as a data factory. This is also something that is extremely important because, there's this race for who has the best model in terms of AI algorithms, but now there is a race for who will actually own the best data to train those algorithms. So now this is where we're positioning ourselves with those data factories, is generating tons of data that is ML ready. What does that mean is that there's a lot of people reporting something called the reproducibility crisis, which is the fact that data that is published out there is not good quality data. Because most of the time, there is a lot of pressure to publish what is called successful data. So something that led to something that was a discovery. But all the data that are also considered as failed experiment that didn't lead to anything interesting is extremely valuable for algorithms. So by owning our own lab, then it allows us to record both successful data, but also, failed experiments. And that's very important. I think that touches also on what François mentioned in terms of how to capture the value. Because when you're a service company, it's very difficult because you don't see in the end what is the ROI, so the return on investment of the tool that you provide. Because if we don't see the data, this is something that we don't have access to. So going back to the pricing model is very difficult because ideally what we want to have is value-based.
Exactly, yeah.
But the problem is you cannot see the value you generate.
So how do you price it then?
Well, you price it, you do analysis, you look at what you can bring to the table in terms of, we do a lot of benchmark internally, regular method, so design of experiment, one factor at a time. Those are methods that are being used in industry today. And then how our tool can accelerate this. And, by working very closely with academia, so we work very closely with ETH in Zurich, so right here, we work very closely with different universities, MIT in the US and universities across Europe. And there, the flexibility of working with them is then we actually have access to the data, we can publish, we can have a sense of how we accelerate things. And then this is a way to understand the value we generate and then how we can price it.
You get a feeling for the value, even if you don't see the data.
Yeah. And this is even more true now with access to the lab, because now we can really test this in a real system where we can actually see the entire data and therefore the value.
Makes sense. And François, you mentioned before the BioTool initiative. I also wonder, what is your goal? What are your intentions with this initiative?
So first of all, I would like to mention that BioTool is a family of existing, it's not new in itself, right? It's a family of existing businesses. And you may have heard about tech, BioTools for life sciences, and so on and so forth. Basically, we want to gather all those under one umbrella and have an initiative that first, people who were belonging to a scattered community now has a clear identity. And they know what they're doing. They know therefore the investor knows this type of business better. The coach knows that type of business better, because therefore they won't go heads down into, you need an FDA certification or whatnot. And the goal is really to have like a social media, if you will. So we have launched last Monday a LinkedIn for BioTools. And what the first goal is really, it will be informative first, but we really want to have actionable content. Like I have ideas, like it would be also to bring on board accelerators, significant investors in the field. Not only in Vaud, but in Switzerland and in Europe, and why not the whole world? But we really want to be the epicenter of BioTools. It seems like it was a wide space so far. Now we want to make it tangible. We want to facilitate this community and be the epicenter of BioTools in Europe.
I love that ambition. Amazing.
Thank you.
Look, how is that from your founder perspective? Why is it important? How does it benefit you to have this definition and sort of ecosystem of BioTool companies evolving around that term?
Yeah, I think the key word here is ecosystem that you just mentioned and that François also mentioned. Because, like if you think about the lab that we built, right? We have robotics equipment on this. We have a lot of analytical equipment on it. Then we have data post-processing that needs to be done. Then we have AI on top that will, make sense of the data. We have orchestrator that will orchestrate the entire workflow on the robot. We have databases. We have the application, which is the chemistry. So what I'm saying there is like it's so multidisciplinary. It's not a single company that will be able to, address and crack the whole thing. What will be able to change this is an ecosystem. And I think it's extremely important to bring in the right players and have access to an ecosystem, being part of an ecosystem where everyone has their specialty and can bring their specialty to the table. And I also love the ambition of, making this, this HubSpot for BioTool. There's also a vision that we have for the self-driving labs concept, right? We're pushing this out of Switzerland. The goal is to make Switzerland core or a very centralized place for pushing this concept.
And I also wonder, before you mentioned, you have different areas where you can actually apply your technology and your platform, so to speak. You mentioned chemistry. You are, of course, a BioTool company yourself. How do you choose the right focus on where you actually deploy and build the first traction? Because you could probably do 3, 4, 5 things in parallel, but at the same time, you also have to focus and
absolutely
use your resources the most efficient way.
Wisely, yeah, absolutely. So I think we started with chemistry because very early on we had I'm a chemist by training. We have also a lot of chemical knowledge in the company. So the natural step was to start from the chemistry point of view. And as mentioned, chemistry is really across all different application and industries. So the natural first step was to tackle pharma. So I mentioned this application with Takeda Pharmaceutical that has been a client of us for a while now. But then we spread, right? So we went also with fragrance industry. So we've been working with initially Firmenich, so now with DSM Firmenich for some time in the fragrance industry. We do also a lot of biotech. So we did oligonucleotide synthesis, for example, with some CROs in the US called Snapdragon Chemistry, a Cambrex company. So yeah, now we really go across different applications because the good thing about it is it's a tool. And a tool can be applied across different applications. And the way we build the platform is to be agnostic to the application in the end.
Are the challenges to actually deploy your technology to these different applications, are they similar, or is it even copy-pastable, so to speak?
Yeah, I think we managed to bring it to a certain level of abstraction where all those applications are very similar to the machine learning algorithm. So as long as you can, or our client can phrase their application or their problem as an optimization problem, then the tool can be applied.
Yeah. And François, we mentioned the ecosystem that you are building here. tell us a bit more about how you do that. I mean, do you host events? The LinkedIn content you mentioned? Do you have specific coaching programs? What do you do to help BioTool companies like Loic's company to actually overcome the challenges that they're facing to really move the needle for this specific part?
Exactly. So first, I think the big thing, the big step forward is giving them an identity. So we understand what BioTool means.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And then building this community so that they can talk and link together is the second. So far, right now, it's infancy, but I mean, the possibles are infinite, right? We can do whatever we want in that field. First, we need to create that field and then understand what can go within that. So we are all ears out to really understand, okay, what do you need, guys? So just tell us. And we really want to streamline everything. So we want to have a pool of investors. We want to have accelerators. We want to have anything that can help, like coaches that will be knowledgeable into BioTools specifically. We want to, I don't know, you name it, basically. It's really open.
Yeah.
Right now, we have created the first events that it was the launching events last Monday on the platform. We want to do that regularly, yearly, a big event with BioTools. That's the first thing. And then this year will be more educational. So it's really showing to people that we exist, what is our intention, like this podcast.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really it will be really informative. But the whole key is really to have tools that will help supporting and being actionable for the actors of BioTools within that platform.
I like it. It comes in different phases, so to speak. First, you have to even educate the market that there's a term to talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you do everything else.
And even BioTool founders, I mean, again, BioTool is our definition, right? Because you may not name yourself as Tech Bio, Tools for Bio, whatever. That what we consider as being BioTool. And why did we choose the term BioTool? Is because BioTool is well known in the US. Yeah. And it seemed to us that if we want to target investor, US will be easier. And if we have this language of having BioTool word already, it will be easier. So that's why we use the term BioTool.
I think it's also a very good description on the definition that you shared at the beginning. It's a very, people get it, I feel.
I hope so. That's the whole game.
And if not, you're here to support that.
Exactly.
That they understand. Exactly. Loïc, switching back to you, what are the next steps for you and Atinary? Like, what are you focusing on right now? Because the potential is immense, but it takes multiple steps to also realize it. So what's your focus for the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the immediate focus, of course, is to leverage the data that we're currently producing in our lab. So it's putting in place an entire pipeline where we can really collect this data super efficiently and we can provide it back to our users through different licensing terms, and then use this data internally to continue fine-tuning our own models such that we have better models. Better models mean better data. Then we have this better data that can, again, feed the model to bring even a better model. And it's really a flywheel effect. The idea is that now we started with, this very first vertical where in the end what the lab targets is called small molecules. So these are molecules that are done in homogeneous catalysis. This is targeting the pharma industry. But then the goal is to replicate this type of approach to different verticals. So build more data factories.
I love it. Any fundraising plans in the near future as well?
I mean, we're a startup, right? So we're constantly in fundraising mode.
Before the fund or after fundraising is before the fundraising.
That is absolutely correct.
So that's also on the horizon in that sense.
Absolutely.
Do you, in that sense, with the bridge that François mentioned to the US with the BioTool terminology, is that also where you're looking for investors given your operations and the terminology, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the end, Atinary started in the US back in 2019. We're incorporated initially there and then moved back to Switzerland. I'm originally from Switzerland, so moved back to Switzerland, incorporated the company as well here. So now we have this luxury to play on the two continents, right, where we can leverage the best of the two worlds.
It's a pretty cool combination.
It is. It is.
And François, what is
next from Innovaud's side? Of course, you have a lot of work to now build up this ecosystem, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on.
Other than BioTools, you mean?
But both.
Yeah. So obviously, there's a lot of things ongoing at Innovaud. So I would really advise you to stay tuned and follow us on LinkedIn. If you want to be part of the BioTools community, do contact me. So I guess I can say my email.
Of course, yeah.
So François.Capel, Capel @innovaud.ch. And yeah, if you feel like you belong to this definition, just contact me and you're welcome on the platform. So besides that, there's a lot of ongoing. I mean, we have the scale-up community that is driven by Charlotte. We have the synergy programs. We have too much. You know what? So I won't be able to sum it up in 30 seconds. But do follow us on our LinkedIn, and if you have anything you would like to ask us, do not hesitate to contact us.
You really do a tremendous job. I'm a big fan of Innovaud.
Thank you very much.
Because you are on fire with the ecosystem and the momentum that you have developed, and you're a very important part of that.
Thank you.
I encourage everyone to go check it out.
Absolutely. And from the Atinary side, I can only, emphasize this aspect because we really were there at the very beginning. We were able to use the help from Innovaud both on the financial side, but also on the ecosystem, bringing in the right partner to start the company as well. So yeah, congratulations on all the effort from Innovaud.
Well, thank you, Loïc.
I want to wrap up the episode with some rapid fire questions. I give you a short question and you have to answer ideally in one sentence.
Oof.
You ready?
Okay.
Loïc, let's start with you. What's the biggest myth about AI in laboratories?
AI will replace the scientists.
No, nice misconception. François, what's your favorite thing about the Vaud innovation ecosystem?
It sounds to be complete and everyone is moving in the same direction and collaborating within each other. I feel that within this different piece of the puzzles, we are really moving forward together and that there is no competition as such, I would say.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Love it. Look, what's one boring lab task that you wish you could automate forever?
Well, pipetting.
We haven't said the same thing.
That makes sense. Yeah. And François, who is a dream collaborator, a company or an institution, maybe even an individual, I don't know, that you haven't worked with yet, but would love to?
Well, I would love to work with the big players in BioTools. So Isomorphic Lab being one, and I know that they are sitting in Lausanne. So, Isomorphic Lab, I'm coming, just so you know. So yeah, it's playing with those big players and also facilitating the access to these big players, and so that they exchange with the BioTool founders on the platform. Why not? It would be great.
It sounds like a win-win. 10 to 100x more efficiency and business for your startups. Amazing. Look, a very spontaneous one for you. United States or Switzerland, if you had to choose one?
Oh, to choose in respect of what?
Overall.
No, Switzerland.
Yeah, that's the place to be for you.
Yes.
We're very happy to hear that.
I'm a nature lover. I do a lot of mountaineering, and mountain being like 30 minutes away from Lausanne is
hard to beat.
It's really hard to beat.
And I want to ask both of you, let's start with you, François, for the last one. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Salary and social position is not a goal, it's a hobby.
I love that. Beautiful, beautiful. Loïc, what's your advice?
It's embrace the friction of change, because innovation comes with change, and change is not easy. But the fact that there is friction is very important, because that means we're in something that is very valuable.
Is that your opening slide for the change management piece that we talked to?
Probably I should make that the opening slide.
Yeah. No, that's the spirit. Wonderful. François, Loïc, thank you so much for your time, for being here today, and I wish you all the best and lots of success for
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.